Some wars are remembered for their heroism, others for their tragedy. And then there's the Great Emu War, a short-lived Australian military operation in 1932 that pitted soldiers with machine guns against large, flightless birds and lost. This is not a satire, it really happened, and it's one of the strangest military failures in history. The Great Depression had slammed into Australia like a freight train. Wheat prices collapsed. Farmers, many of them World War veterans resettled on government land in West Australia, were struggling to survive. But it wasn't just economics they were fighting. That year, unusually dry conditions had pushed tens of thousands of emus toward farmland in search of food and water. And they found it, in the form of ripe, golden wheat fields. Farmers were already competing against low prices and high debts. Watching their only source of income get traded by birds the size of a small man, that was the breaking point. The emu is the world's second largest bird after the ostrich, having a height up to 1.9 meters. They weigh around 30 to 45 kilograms. They have a top speed of 50 km per hour. Endurance, they can keep the pest for a long distance. They travel in groups, scatter under fire, and regroup later. They are built for survival. Their powerful legs can scatter bones. Their thick feathers absorb some impacts, and their ability to zigzag while running makes them maddeningly difficult to shoot. The settlers had guns, but most were bolt-action rifles, useless against dozens of fast-moving targets. Farmers lobbied the government for help. They weren't just asking for advice. They wanted the army. The Minister of Defense agreed, assigning Major G.P.W. Merritts of the Royal Australian Artillery to lead the mission. His task force consisted of 2 soldiers, 2 Lewis machine guns, capable of firing 500 rounds per minute, 10,000 rounds of ammunition. Officially, this wasn't called a war. The government insisted it was assistance to farmers, but the press quickly gave it a much better name, the Great Emu War. November 2nd, 1932, location near Campaign, Western Australia. A group of about 50 emus was spotted. The soldiers set up their gun and opened fire. The results? Chaos. The birds scattered instantly. Within seconds, the soldiers were left shooting at empty scrubland. It became clear the emus wouldn't line up neatly like human troops. They broke into small groups, making them harder to hit. In the days that followed, the soldiers tried everything. Ambush. The bird always moved before the soldiers could fire effectively. Track-mounted gun. The terrain was too rough. The ride too bumpy, and the emus still outrun the vehicle. Chasing flocks, ineffective, as the emus simply split up and vanished into the bush. One day, after spotting a flock of 1,000 emus, they managed to kill only 12 before the gun jammed. Major Merritts would later note that the emus had an uncanny ability to withstand bullets, some taking multiple hits before disappearing into the distance. After an embarrassing start, the operation was suspended, but political pressure from farmers led to a second campaign later that month. This time, the soldiers killed more birds, about 986 confirmed, plus another 2,500 wounded who likely died later. But compared to the 20,000 plus emus in the region, the effort barely made a dent. And at costs of over 10,000 rounds of ammunition, it wasn't exactly efficient. By now, the newspaper were having a field day. Army humiliated by birds, machine guns no match for the emu blitzkrieg. Even international outlets mocked the campaign. It became an embarrassment for the government, especially during a time when they were trying to project strength and stability. By December 1932, the army was due entirely. Farmers were given ammunition and told to handle the problem themselves. Over time, better fencing and bounty programs helped reduce crop losses, but the emu population remained high. Today, there are hundreds of thousands across Australia. Major Merides, to his credit, took the defeat with humor. He told reporters, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks." And the reasons were simple. They are faster and more agile than the soldiers' vehicles. They could absorb damage and keep moving. They scattered under fire and regrouped later. 20,000 birds was simply too many to eliminate with the available manpower. It was a perfect storm of poor planning, underestimated enemies, and a bad luck. The Great Emu War has since entered folklore as a symbol of military absurdity. It's been referenced in books, documentaries, comedyscapes, and even video games. Australians today often retell the story with a mix of pride and embarrassment. Pride in the emu's resilience, embarrassment, and the military's failure. It's a reminder that nature doesn't always play by human rules, and that sometimes the simplest looking enemy can outwit the most advanced weapon. The Great Emu War wasn't a war in the traditional sense. It was a small-scale pest control operation that spiraled into national humiliation. But it remains one of the most uniquely Australian stories ever told. A country with tanks and machine guns defeated by a bird that can't even fly? If you enjoyed this dive into one of history's strangest military blunders, make sure you subscribe, because the past is full of unbelievable stories just waiting to be uncovered. And somewhere in the outback, the descendants of those 1932 emus are still running free, undefeated.